And welcome back, everybody. Today we've got another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video for you. Specifically, this is going to be the beginning of a new series. We kind of have already had the series, but I'm renaming the series. Our series called Stout Squads, where we look at squads here in SWGOH that are particularly good in GAC. Specifically today, we're going to be looking at 5v5 defense. Now, I will say that the teams that we look at here, I'm going to try, one of my goals is to provide a variety of team levels in terms of the comps. So let's say that you're top end Kyber 1. There are some teams here that you're going to be able to benefit from using. Let's say that you're just starting the game and you're not very far into the game. There are going to be some teams here that are going to also still benefit you and that you can actually, shoot for. It's not something completely out of the realm of possibilities for you. So hopefully this video has some content that everybody can make use of moving forward. With that being said, everybody, let's get into it. All right, so first and foremost, we have 5 teams that we're looking at here today that are, in my opinion, amazing on defense. Plus, we have one additional bonus one here at the end of the video, guys, that is going to be great on defense, but also can be really viable on offense too. In my opinion, especially for this current round here of GAC. So that's the other thing I wanted to mention here, guys. This is geared a little bit towards this current round of GAC. We will be taking some datacrons into account with this. We're going to talk about this without datacrons and with datacrons. So it will be useful both far into the future as well as here current immediately for all of you. First and foremost, we're going to start at the top here, guys. So we're pretty much going to go from the high-end teams down to the easier teams that are a little bit less effective the further up you go in the Kyber ranks, so to speak, if you will. First team that we have here, guys, is a GL Slayer. This team is just ridiculously good. That is the UFU squad, including, in particular, Malicos here, folks. Obviously, this is a team that a lot of the newer players out there, you have no shot at getting this at this point, because Malicos is a conquest character. And unless you're really, really at the high ends of the game at this point, you're just simply not going to have Malicos yet. But if you are at the high end of the game, guys, this is a phenomenal squad. Don't get me wrong, it can be really good on offense too. Pretty much all of these teams can be really great on offense. But the key thing that really separates offensive teams and defensive teams is that the AI on the teams work well on defense. And this is an example of that, where this team, it's not so apparently we got a sound alert, guys. It's not just about the fact that we're getting incredible AI on this, but also this team just does so well that no matter how bad the AI plays it, it's going to potentially destroy you. The main reason for this is primarily the damage output of this team. There is so much damage output between Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum, Terran Malicos, and even Seer. She'll build up and do damage based off of health, guys. She'll even just one-shot. For instance, I've taken in Trey against this with Savage, and she'll just one-shot my Savage. This team is bananas good. The reason I've labeled it a GL Slayer, folks, specifically, I've taken in C comps with other Sith, not Wat, but C comps with other Sith, and I have lost to this team. I hate to say it, but I have. This team is that good on defense. They can actually beat GLs. Top tier team. Really gonna probably throw your opponent through a loop, get a lot of holds for you. If you've got Malicos and you're able to get your UFUs up, highly recommend you do it. Obviously, unfortunately, I do not have this team yet. It is certainly one of my top priorities, though, as it is an amazing team. All right, moving on to our second team that we have here. This one is a little bit more Datacron dependent. Obviously, Malicos right now, Seer as well. The UFU squad is benefiting highly from the Datacron set that we currently have in GAC, but even without that Datacron set, they're still amazing. The Tuskens are what I would kind of argue is a B-tier defensive team without the Datacrons. Currently in this season, though, holy smokes, folks. The Datacron set is going to be so good for this squad that really you might just need to use GLs against them. They're that good. They're going to be that hard to kill. You can see I have it labeled thick because of how thick they're going to be. long story short, this team just it surprises you. You do not expect it to be as good as it is on defense, and it is just going to cause nightmares for you. If you allow Tusken Warrior to keep going for too long, suddenly Tusken Warrior, kind of like Terran Malicos or Ahsoka Tano, is just going to start one-shotting your characters. You really, really have to be able to be on top of this team and get Warrior out as fast as possible, and that's tough to do. It is very tough to do, especially with the current Datacron set that we've got coming out. Obviously, again, this is a team I do not have. These are two teams that I think a lot of higher-end rosters are going to have, especially if you went really hard on the crate raid. In particular, you're probably going to have the Tuskens up and running, folks. If you're a newer player or even a mid-tier player, maybe that you're not going to have access to these just yet, and that's certainly fine. But these are just two great squads that if you have it, like the Tuskens, or if you're trying to get it, like the Ufus in particular, they're both going to be great squads for you to put on defense. All right, moving on to our next one. This is one that I think is a little bit more accessible to most players in the game, and that is our Resistance under Finn team. Specifically, obviously, without question, folks, you need the Zori, Zetas, and Omicron in particular for this team to really punch up. An added bonus, I don't have the Rose Tico Omicron on here, but if you put the Rose Tico Omicron in here, suddenly this team goes up to a whole nother level. Right now, without any Datacron help, folks, I would argue that this team is actually better than the Tuskens. That Datacron's going to make it a real fine line. The Tuskens might be better currently under the new Datacron coming out. But if we're talking about this again without Datacrons, though, this Resistance team is going to be better day in, day night. Day in, day and night? Day in and night. There we go. So if this is a team that you, for instance, have been working on, or if you, coughed up a little bit of cash, folks, and may have gotten the Resistance Lightspeed bundle like I did, then this is a team you absolutely need to get and put on defense, in my opinion. If you are someone that got this bundle, little PSA here, folks, and you are not working on Zori, you are missing out so badly on this faction. I know that she's not included in that. You got to really go at her hard on your end in terms of farming, but she is absolutely worth it, folks. This team is so good. It is so hard to beat. And like I said, when you add that Rose Tico Omicron on this, it just becomes a whole other level of incredible defensive prowess. This is kind of like the Troopers on defense. What the Troopers does on offense, this team does on defense. If they get out and running, you're just not going to beat them. Again, this is a team that can beat GLs. It's that good on defense. If your GL doesn't play it right, or you aren't playing it right with the GL, I should say, this team can defeat GL teams. It is that good, everybody. All right, moving on to our fourth team. So again, this is another team that I think is going to be a little bit more accessible compared to our top two teams that we had on this list, and that is our dashing defense here, folks. There are a lot of varieties of comps that you can use with this one in particular. The same thing's kind of true with our Resistance team that we had, but Resistance really, I think you pretty clearly, this is the best comp that you could have. Whereas with the dashing D that we've got here, folks, there are a number of varieties you could put together here. You could take IG and Kuil out if you wanted to and put in some of the other scoundrels that you might have if you don't have IG-11 or Kuil out, up and running. If you spend a little bit of money, like someone here on the BAM bundle, you might have them up and running, though. And they are a great addition to this team because Kuil, for those of you that don't know, shares a bunch of his stats with the team. So I think in an ideal setting, folks, obviously we have Kuil and IG-11 in this comp. They go together super duper well. If you're going to have Kuil in here, you might as well have IG-11 in here too. L3, far and away, in my opinion, the best tank in this squad. If you're running IG-11 and Kuil, you might be able to pull L3 out, though, because IG-11 kind of works as that tank for you. So you could pull L3 out, maybe put L3 over with a Ray team, maybe over with a Sortie team. You've got some flexibility with this team. Vet Smuggler Han, normally I would not have in this team, folks. Traditionally speaking, I would probably pull L3 out of here, put L3 with another comp, keep Kuil and IG-11, and then I might throw in, for instance, like Nest or possibly even Hondo as well as another good option here. Or you could just go real basic, bare bones back in the day with the rest of the Dash team, the rest of that prepared team. Throw in Young Han, throw in Vandor Chewie as well. Vandor Chewie is typically going to be your fourth member of this team, I would argue, folks. But the reason we have Vet Smuggler Han on this team here in this video in particular is because currently, like I said, we're talking about Datacrons now as well as generally speaking. There is a current set of Datacron for both L3 and Vet Smuggler Han that are very, very good. If you can get those Datacrons and you have both of these characters at Relic 5, it's a great plug-and-play type Cron to put on this team. It benefits Scoundrels heavily, so it's going to benefit the entire faction. If you have the L3 one, it makes L3 not only super tanky, but also L3 does a lot of damage based off of her health, so that's great. If you've got Vet Smuggler Han, same idea. He's going to punch up a lot because he's going to have some stacking damage and crit damage and things like that come along with his Cron, and it's just going to make him hit a lot harder as well. So, you could use either of these two. Would I normally have L3 and Vet Smuggler Han in this team? No, but given the current Datacron, might not be a bad idea to throw one of them on your team. I don't think I would use both of them. If you're going to go for the L3 Cron, I'd put L3 in and Vandy. If you're going to go for the Vet Smuggler Han, I'd put Vet Smuggler Han and Vet Smuggler Chewie on the team instead. But, like I said, folks, this is a great just kind of overall team that you can use all over the place with a lot of variety, and it's going to be very, very good for you on defense. Gonna draw out some pretty heavy-duty offensive teams, which is your goal. All right, moving on to the next one. This is what I would argue is probably the easiest for people to get at the beginning levels, and that is basically because the troopers are such an easy faction to farm. They are very free-to-play friendly at this point. Iden Versio really is the only big requirement here, and she only has one Omicron. I want to point something out here, folks, with this. The dashing defense only requires one Omicron. Iden Versio, the Stout Scout squad here that we've got, which I'll get into Scout in a second, only one Omicron. The Zori team under Resistance is minimum one, but ideally, like maxed out, probably two. And then obviously, the ones above it are going to require a lot more. I don't have the Omicrons on those teams, but they're going to require a lot more than just one or two Omicrons. Now, with this Iden team, folks, so I do have this labeled as Stout Scout, because the ideal version of this team at this point, I think, is going to include Scout Trooper. Also, I should point out that Scout Trooper has a Datacron right now that's really going to make him punch up a whole lot, too. So for those of you that are out there and you're a top-end Kyber 1 level kind of player, and you've got Scout Trooper, you've got Leia, all that stuff unlocked, you're probably going to want to throw this team in with Scout Trooper. Is this team best on defense? Maybe not for someone like you. You might choose to use them on offense. That's certainly a viable option. But I think for most players that are not at the high end of Kyber 1, this is going to still be a very good defensive squad, especially when you put Scout Trooper on this team. When you don't have Scout Trooper, so those of you that are a little bit more in the mid-range and beginning range player base here, without Scout Trooper, this can be a very, very, very good defensive squad. It depends on what your opponent has and how big their roster is. If they have a Wampa and you don't have Scout Trooper in here, folks, this is very easily beaten by Wampa. So be aware of that. Outside of that, the requirements are pretty substantial if you're including Bad Batch as being a substantial team, which I tend to include Bad Batch as being pretty substantial. Versus, though, when you throw Scout Trooper in here, folks, suddenly that becomes way more difficult to beat. So, like I said, it's one that I think works very well for a beginning player if you are without Scout Trooper and you're just getting yourself started in the game here. Works really well on defense. I used to use this team all the time back when I was in the 5, 6, 7 million range on defense, which I would still consider that to be pretty mid-game, not even beginning, early game, and it was still a good defensive squad for me. Now that I'm up 10 million, it's a little bit different. I tend to not put this on defense. If I had Scout Trooper, however, you bet I would. So, like I said, folks, great team, great option again on defense. Now, our final team, this is our bonus team, if you will, is going to be a team that does really well on defense and could potentially be really, really good on offense as well. That is our Qui-Gon Jinn team, folks. We have it labeled yeet because literally this team is going to just yeet the opponent out of the game. They're going to punch so hard and do so much ridiculous amounts of damage. It actually probably will be funny. I wanted to say it won't even be funny, but it actually probably will be funny because of the ridiculous amounts of damage that are going to be done. You'll notice I have Keller and Beck on this squad. Again, most people are not going to have Keller and Beck. But looking down the road, planning for the future, folks, this is the ideal comp, in my opinion, that you're going to want to run. It's going to give Cam his full benefit in terms of speed and all of his stats and everything that he's going to get because it's all Galactic Republic. Qui-Gon is going to obviously be your lead that benefits everybody there. Keller and Beck is going to boost this squad with his entire kit that he's got. Plus, when you go in to do TW as a side bonus, switch Qui-Gon and Keller and Beck, and bam, you've got yourself the same effective squad that's going to do a ridiculous amount of damage in TW. Now, those of you that obviously don't have Keller and Beck, like myself, any other Galactic Republic Jedi is going to work really well here. If you're looking more on the defensive side of things, you might want to put in like Barriss Offee, for instance. That gives a lot of that extra healing that's going on, extra health, that kind of thing. I think in terms of a defensive standpoint, she's probably going to be your best bet for the 5th slot there. If you're looking for a team that's a little bit more on the annoying side, maybe you put in Ayla with all those stuns that she gives. So there's a lot of different options in terms that you could look at here, folks. I would say probably for me, if I'm using it on offense, I'd throw in Ayla. If I'm using it on defense, I'd throw in Barriss. Just depends on what you're looking for and how you want to use it. Is this going to beat a GL? No. I do need to preface it with that, folks. It will not beat a GL just because of the claws in the Omicrons of Qui-Gon and Keller and Beck, both in TW as well as GAC. Really, none of these Dash can actually beat a GL on offense, folks, but that's a very, very, very specific squad. But most of these squads from Dashing D and below are not going to be able to beat a GL. Hope and a prayer up. It has a chance. It has a chance. So, great teams on offense, yes, of course, but these are going to be teams that I think are really going to get you some holds in your GAC moving into the future and are going to really just help you just have one heck of a stout defense for you guys to be successful in GAC, both now with the current Datacron set and moving into the future. All right, with that being said, everybody, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, I'd appreciate if you guys liked, subscribed, and of course, turn on notifications so you guys don't miss anything in the future. With that being said, everybody, catch you next time.